Hi everyone and welcome to Ask the Edge. I am Anthony Trezza, also known as UR2020, and with me today is Barbara Bowley, also known on the contest circuit as Sophia. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi Anthony, it's great to be here.
Yes, and we just wanted to go over a few things. Tournament Edge was created by horse racing contest players for the horse racing contest players. And what we're trying to do today is take some of your questions that might be left over from some of the webinars we have produced, and we've received some email questions. So we're going to put that in a format in this little webcast today. And we're going to try to give out best explanations. I'm considered a contest strategist. Barbara's a physicality expert. So hopefully we can put together some answers that to some of your questions. And this week's question comes from Jack M. And he states, I'm fairly new to tournament play and I'm having trouble deciding on whether I should play in lockdown games or live events. Barbara, can you take that question and I'll try to give a little insight as well.
Well, Anthony, I think what Jack is referring to is the difference between a game or contest in which you're able to make your picks in advance before the start of the first race versus one that is a live selection race where you can make your picks as you go. And they're called different things at different websites. Some websites call this situation a lockdown, some call it a pick and pray, some call it locked and loaded. So that's one that appeals to some people. It's not my preference, honestly, because I'm a visual or a physicality handicapper. But what I do know is, having analyzed this, is that kind of paradoxically, Anthony, the total scores tend to be higher in these pre-selected games. That's because people are being a little more defensive against bombs or high-priced horses in a way that they aren't is in such a conservative fashion in the actual live contests. So I tend to avoid them myself. I don't know what your perspective on them is. I'd be interested in hearing.
Well, I generally take these games when I look at a particular card, let's say Belmont, for example. I'll look at the card during the day and I'll say, do I have time to play it? And if I don't, and I just going to handicap, I'll get myself into a lockdown game. But with that not being a variable, I'll actually take a look at the card and I'll divide it into 3 different subcategories. I love it, I like it, and I totally dislike it. If I really love the card, I'm going to play in a lockdown game. Usually it means I have some specific horses in mind, maybe what we would consider long shots or bombs. And this way, when you play in a game like that and you can hit some of those bombs, you don't have a lot of stabbing at the end. So if I really love the card and I have some key horses in mind, I'll put myself into a lockdown game. If I'm in the middle and I kind of like the game or like the card, I will go with a live game where I can make some adjustments on the fly. So if I fall behind by any larger point scale, I may have to switch to my second or third choice. I advise anybody new to the game, if they totally dislike the card, to still play it. Probably a lot of advice would go, stay away from the card. I still believe in playing and learning even when you're not at your best. I've won a lot of games where I didn't feel the card was my strength. And so I would say still play, but use a lesser denomination. If you're usually playing in a $25 game, reduce it to 5 or 2 or 4, whatever the smallest denomination. So, I usually like to break it up into categories, and I'll roll that way.
Anthony, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I noticed that a lot of players tend to, in the pre-selected games, tend to pick a horse for their final selection that is a bomb.
Right.
It's almost a psychological defense, I think, that I don't really agree with. I see a lot of people do that in the hopes that, well, at least I'll have a play at the end, even if I'm not really doing well all the way up to the final race. And I think you should really be playing your best selections all the way through and not let the last race dictate what you pick on the basis of just having a long shot in case. Do you play that way? Because I see a lot of people who do.
Well, it's interesting you say that. When I do play in a lockdown game, prior to probably up to about a month ago, I did choose a longer shot at the end. I noticed I was getting beat quite a number of times by some what you would consider stabs at the end. But Michael Bachak brought up a great point not too long ago in one of our webinars that he likes to have a legitimate shot at the end with a legitimate horse. And I've actually switched because of Michael's comment. So a lot of my plays now are going to be reasonably priced horses that have legitimate shots at winning. I found just in the short time that I've been doing that, I've been winning more lockdown games. So I thank Michael for that advice.
I think the interesting thing too is that the research shows that people tend to have higher prices in their final score in lockdowns than in live contests. That's a little counterintuitive, but people tend to be a little more defensive, I think, as we've been saying.
Absolutely, I agree. I think the scores are a tiny bit higher in those lockdown games. It'd be an interesting thing to dive into, but just eyeballing it and seeing all the games that I play in it, they're usually a little bit higher than a live game where you can be a little bit more cautious and pick and choose your horses wisely. I really believe that's true.
Yeah.
Well, that was our question for today. We appreciate Jack for sending in the question. We would love you guys to send in more questions. We're going to be doing this every single week on Ask the Edge. And Barbara, how can they get how can a tournament player who has questions? I know we're fielding a lot of questions at this point, but we do want to get to all of them by email. But we're going to choose one of the best ones each week to put on air. Can you tell the audience how to get a hold of us for questions?
Oh, sure. It's very simple. Just go to thetournamentedge.net and you'll find a way to contact us on the contact button, or you can just directly email us at contact@thetournamentedge.net.
That's great. That's great. And look for more information. We have TV shows coming up. We have Barry and Bobby doing the tournament talk, and we're going to be doing this every single week. There's a lot of excitement on the tournamentedge.net. We have wonderful blogs this week, so check us out. And we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you next week on Ask the Edge.
Have a great week. Good luck.